They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the program. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. Good morning to you. I know some of you are having your first sip of coffee. We want to thank you for starting the beginning of your day with us here at the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We don't just want to talk about conservatism. We would actually like to see policies implemented that are better for the people. And, of course, more freedom is better. In order to have that, you got to have a small government. Now, we got a lot to get to today. This is the news. The news gets stranger and stranger and stranger. It really, truly does. Coming up at the bottom of this hour, we'll be talking with professor of economics at Stockton University in New Jersey. Michael Busler will be back with us. We're going to talk a little bit about the minimum wage. We have obviously discussed this particular topic at length, but there is a new poll out suggesting that, of course, in terms of the Democrats essentially being Santa Claus and just wanting to give things away, the American people like the idea of a $15 minimum wage until they actually hear what that could do to the economy, what that could do to small businesses. It happened here in Arkansas where we had a ballot initiative last cycle to raise the minimum wage. And, of course, this is going to cripple small businesses here in the state of Arkansas. Next year, what does it go up to next year, Joe? Do we know? $10 an hour, and then it goes up even more after that to $11? Which is, if you look at the cost of living, for Arkansas, going to an $11 minimum wage would be like a $15 minimum wage when you actually look at what things cost around here versus, say, those people who are demanding a $15 minimum wage up in, like, Oregon, something like that. So, we're going to be talking to him about this. It's extremely destructive, and it's always great to talk to Michael Busler anyway, so we've got that going on. Also, coming up in the next hour, I do want to revisit this article from yesterday that outed Arkansas as being, tied for number one highest sales tax state in the country with Tennessee. Of course, Tennessee has no income tax. I was at the Jackson County Republican Committee meeting doing a presentation of the Conduit for Commerce scorecard last night, and a lot of people were, they're frustrated with just the state of things. How much tax money, how much we're being taxed right now is really, really a big deal. Go ahead, Joe.
Wasn't there something that went through the legislature this past session that dealt with the minimum wage?
Yes. State Representative Robin Lundstrom, she tried to essentially say small businesses with 25 or fewer employees would be exempt from the new Arkansas minimum wage requirements. And it failed on the House floor, I believe. And what's sad about that is they didn't even the establishment didn't want to get behind this because they were so sensitive that it had just been voted on by the people. And it's like newsflash, people don't understand why the minimum wage is bad. They don't understand why this artificial declaration that we're all of a sudden more wealthy from one day to the next when no more homes have been built, no more cars have been made. No more transactions have actually happened. Just from one day to the next, we're now wealthier, by government mandate.
Yeah.
And we're not actually wealthier at all. You're just saying you are.
So my question is, I don't know, did Asa come out in support of this bill?
I don't believe he did. No, I know for a fact he didn't. Because it was such it would have been going against the populace.
The jobs governor did not come out in favor a bill that would save jobs.
So, oh, Joe, that I love you, my friend. So the interesting thing here, on that, they wanted to just let me tie a bow around this. They wanted to respect the will of the voters. That was their mantra. Now, they didn't care about respecting the will of the voters when it came to voting to send back to the people a permanent half-cent sales tax that's set to expire in a couple of years. That was voted on by the people for specific road projects for 10 years, and then the tax is supposed to go away. Didn't really care about the will of the voters. That's 10 years ago, so we don't care about them. And again, but I want to talk about that tax increase, the sales tax thing coming up at 7:05. Just one more time, because there's a few quotes in there. There's a quote that I didn't get to yesterday from Jeff Wardlaw. There's a quote in there, I think, from the governor's nephew, Jim Hendren, Senator Hendren. I want to get to some of these quotes coming up again at 7:05. Okay, where do we want to start? I think the responsible thing to do this morning is to start with James Comey. That's what I think it is. I really do. James Comey, according to this report, let's just go over to let's go to the Zero Hedge first. It's the report. Actually, no, don't go to Zero Hedge. Go to the actual source. The actual source is by Paul Sperry. Paul Sperry over at Real Clear Investigations. Go to realclearinvestigations.com. You can see this headline: Justice Department watchdog has evidence Comey probed Trump, but did it on the sly. All of this is going to come out. I'm telling you, James Comey, I mean, it's a real possibility. I know people never think that those people who do things wrong at the very, very top will ever be held accountable. But I am optimistic, more optimistic than I've ever been. I've been covering this, been doing this thing for 10 years. I'm more optimistic than I've ever been that there might actually be consequences for those at the top that are caught in doing wrong. I really am optimistic. Paul Sperry writes, it's one of the most enduring and consequential mysteries of the Trump-Russia investigation. Why did former FBI Director James Comey refuse to say publicly what he was telling President Trump in private? That Trump was not the target of an ongoing probe. That refusal ignited a chain of events that has consumed Washington for more than 2 years, including Comey's firing by Trump, the appointment of the special counsel, and ongoing claims that Trump obstructed justice. Now, in light of the fact that Robert Mueller is testifying this week, and the DOJ has apparently told him, hey, you need to stay within the confines of the report, that's what your job is. I mean, the fact that you have the other 200-page document that was an extra report from the original one, that was made by the lawyers that knew that there was no collusion for a long time before, and they were like, okay, let's prepare this report, which is just going to trash the president, essentially. And it gives the Democrats more fodder to hope, pray that something's there, that there's something there. So it says here that now an answer is emerging. Sources tell Real Clear Investigations that Justice Department Inspector General Michael Horowitz will soon file a report with evidence indicating that Comey was misleading the president. Now, there's going to be people on the left, I promise you, I can already hear them. Well, Comey was just doing his job. No, he wasn't. It's the President of the United States, and you're the itty-bitty, measly director of the FBI. Compared to the president, you're the itty-bitty, measly director of the FBI. And you don't mislead your boss. Period. But there'll be people on the left that, because it's Trump, but no, these were extenuating circumstances, and they're going to try to argue, and they already have, that somehow James Comey and the gang here, they were being patriotic. No, they were not. As a matter of fact, it's the opposite of patriotism. Let's keep going here. So even as he repeatedly assured Trump he was not the target, the former director was secretly trying to build a conspiracy case against the president, while at times acting as an investigative agent. 2 U.S. officials briefed on the Inspector General's investigation of possible FBI misconduct said Comey was essentially, quote, running a covert operation against the president, starting with a private defensive briefing he gave Trump just weeks before his inauguration. They said Horowitz has examined high-level FBI text messages and other communications indicating Comey was actually conducting a counterintelligence assessment of Trump during the January 2017 meeting in New York. Also find out, according to this, he had a man inside the White House. I would not want to be James Comey right now. Matter of fact, Congressman Rick Crawford, who, he's on the show about once a month. It has been so, I have really enjoyed, I was telling Jackson County this last night, I've really enjoyed interviewing him, but specifically the reason why, and me and him converse about this, I guess we started the monthly interview, back in 2016, and it was probably right after James Comey had come out and said no reasonable prosecutor. So July 2016, no reasonable prosecutor would pursue charges against Hillary. Blah 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 blah. And it's been so, because if you go back and listen to those interviews, it was kind of like, okay, Comey still had his Boy Scout reputation. And there were still plenty of people, myself and Congressman Crawford included, who were willing to give this guy the benefit of the doubt. I thought Comey was a good guy just because of what he did on Fourth Amendment stuff back during the Bush administration when he testified before a Senate committee about, was that Rumsfeld? Because he was the Attorney General or the Deputy Attorney General under Rumsfeld. No, not Rumsfeld. Ashcroft, now Rumsfeld's defense, John Ashcroft. And I thought he was just, a guy of principle saying, hey, the Patriot Act's violating people's Fourth Amendment rights. In hindsight, no, that was just to make President Bush look bad. I mean, that's what I think now, but I didn't think it then. So just to watch those series of interviews and how the benefit of the doubt just slowly goes away. Because the evidence is there. This guy is not a good guy. James Comey, not a good guy. In addition to adding notes of his meetings and phone calls with Trump to the official FBI case file, Comey had an agent inside the White House who reported back to FBI headquarters about Trump and his aides. Although Comey took many actions on his own, he was not working in isolation. One focus of Horowitz's inquiry is the private January 6, 2017 briefing Comey gave the president-elect in New York about material in the Democratic Commission dossier compiled by ex-British intelligence. Boy, again, isn't it great? Isn't it really convenient that he's an ex-British intelligence? Because if he was working for the Brit, that'd be very awkward if he was not an ex-British and he was actually a British intelligence officer, like a current employee. Yeah, that would be rough. Reports of that meeting were used days later by BuzzFeed, CNN, and other outlets as a news hook for reporting on the dossier's unsubstantiated claims. Okay. Comey's meeting with Trump took place one day after the FBI met in the Oval Office with President Obama and Vice President Joe Biden to discuss how to brief Trump, a meeting attended by National Security Advisor Susan Rice, Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson, Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates, and National Intelligence Director James Clapper, who would soon go to work for CNN. Let's take a break, Joe, and listen, I want to know what you think. Sound off on our YouTube channel or the Facebook channel. I know you guys like Facebook for some, you like to comment on the Facebook page better. You never know how long Facebook's going to be around, but facebook.com/Conduit News. Sound off. I'll read some of your words here in just a moment. Good morning to you. Back in a moment. Don't go anywhere.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms. First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well. Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com. So, I want to introduce you to a gentleman that I met last week. I was introduced by a friend. We had some pretty good phone conversation. Very fascinating. He's an Arkansan. His name is Bob Rodweller. Bob, how are you, sir? Good morning to you.
I'm great, thank you.
Hey, thanks for coming on the program. Now, the reason I want to have you on is because I think you have a very interesting perspective as somebody who, well, when did you move to Arkansas, sir?
2012.
Okay, so 2012, so relatively new. But so let's just start from the beginning. Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
I was born in Maryland. I grew up in Maryland and spent my life there. My parents moved from Princeton, out of Princeton, New Jersey, to Baltimore to be around Hopkins, and that's where I grew up.
Need your daily news fix? Don't forget to tune in to Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Sounds good, Joe. Sounds good. Welcome back. Telephone number 870-275-9799. Woods on Facebook. All old dogs will have their day of justice. Well, let's hope. Let's hope that's the case. Let's see here. What else do we have on the Facebook page? You guys make sure you go like it for us. Jackie. Comey is a communist. Never changed his stinking thinking from his old days in college. He's the real colluder, Jackie, on Facebook. We appreciate you sounding off. Let's see here. Okay, let's get back to this. Again, real clear politics or real clear investigations. In his recent published memoir, A Higher Loyalty. Gosh, the virtue signaling from the title alone from Comey is nauseating. In his recently published memoir, A Higher Loyalty, Comey denied having a counterintelligence case file open on Trump, though he qualified the denial by adding this was true only in the literal sense. He also twice denied investigating Trump under oath in congressional testimony. Former federal prosecutor Andrew McCarthy, who has written extensively on the Trump-Russia probe as a columnist for National Review, said that just because the president's name was not put on a file or a surveillance warrant does not mean the Comey FBI was not investigating him. Quote, they were hoping to surveil him incidentally, and they were trying to make a case on him. The real reason Comey did not want to repeat publicly the assurances he made to Trump privately is that these assurances were misleading. The FBI strung Trump along, telling him he was not a suspect while structuring the investigation in accordance with the reality that Trump was the main subject. End quote. But former FBI counterintelligence agent and lawyer Mark Wack said the FBI lacked legal grounds to treat Trump as a suspect. They had no probable cause against Trump himself for collusion or espionage. They were scrambling to come up with anything to hang a hat on, but had found nothing. What remains unclear is why Comey, again, if that's the case, when President Trump tweets that he is the most investigated president, and they haven't found anything, the most investigated president of modern times. That's why all these listen, you never know what could come up. There could always be something, but the left jumping, doing all these back handsprings, trying to tie Trump to Jeffrey Epstein when their actual evidence highlights Bill Clinton in a giant way is really interesting to me. If you really dive into that, what's going on? What remains unclear is why Comey would take such extraordinary steps against a sitting president. The Mueller report concluded there was no basis for the Trump-Russia collusion conspiracy theories. Comey himself was an early skeptic of the Steele dossier, the opposition research memos paid for by Hillary Clinton's campaign that were the roadmap of collusion theories, which he dismissed as salacious and unverified. Republicans, including House Intelligence Committee Vice Chairman Devin Nunes, believe that Comey, like his top counterintelligence agent Peter Strzok, was attempting to stop the Trump presidency for political reasons. Quote, you have the culmination of the ultimate spying, where you have the FBI director spying on the president, taking notes, and illegally leaking those notes of classified information to anti-Trump media, to the anti-Trump media, Nunes said in a recent interview. His panel is one of two House committees scheduled to hear testimony from Mueller on Wednesday. Go to Conduit News, and you can research or search for the sit-down interview I got to do with Devin Nunes, where this was, it hadn't been a year yet. I guess it'll be a year ago in October, where we thought, and even Devin Nunes said, the FISA D-class is coming soon. The FISA D-class is coming soon. Trump's going to declassify it, and the American people are going to know the truth. That hasn't happened yet. Hasn't happened yet. A lot of people waiting on that. What will happen in with the Robert Mueller testimony? There's a lot of stuff going on this week. And this report about the coming, they're now saying the Inspector General's report was supposed to be released back in June. They're now saying this Inspector General's report about Comey is not going to be released now till September. Pretty interesting stuff. Telephone number 870-275-9799. I'm going to talk minimum wage when we come back.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here.
For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms.
First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
The state, but it was time.
It was
It was time to move.
Yeah. Okay. So born in and raised in Maryland, and military career.
Spent 7 years in the Army, 15 months in Vietnam. I'd gone for my second tour. We volunteered to do the second tour, and a friend of mine and I we mixed it up with a 122 rocket, the Rocket 1, and we were sent home. And I spent the next 5 years with the 11th Group for Special Forces out of Fort Meade, Maryland.
Wow. Okay. And so after military service,
The intersection of
So I
conservative
went
ideas and
north
reality.
to-
Conduit
got
News
my
Radio
undergraduate
with
degree
Paul
in computer
Harrell.
science and business, and went on to get my graduate work.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being with us. That is not good. We need to stop that. Thank you. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. 870-275-9799. If you want to call or text the program, we really do appreciate it. Sorry, I was running a little behind there. We had a little bit of a technical snafu. Real quick, we're waiting Dr. Michael Bustler. He'll be on in like 2 seconds. This caught my eye, though, this headline. We may have to come back to this in light of a YouTube star claiming that he's grateful to be alive because the doctors told his mother to abort him. But the Hispanic caucus headline, Trump's fear-mongering is causing illegal aliens to cancel abortions. That's the claim by the Hispanic caucus. His fear-mongering. Isn't that crazy? What a wild headline. We'll tell you more about that coming up. Folks, hey, welcome back to the show. We've got Michael Bustler on the line. He is a professor of economics from Stockton University in New Jersey. You've seen his stuff published, Newsmax, LifeSet, Townhall.com. Dr. Bustler, how are you, sir?
Good morning, Paul. How are you? It's my pleasure to be here.
Yes, sir. It's always great to have you. I wanted to have you on to talk a little bit more about this minimum wage topic. We've got polls showing that Americans are concerned about the impact the increased minimum wage will have on the economy. I know there's a caveat. Like at first they support it, but then they want, if you give them the right information about the negative things that it could do, then they're not so sure. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah. So historically, every time they suggested raising the minimum wage, the American public overwhelmingly supported it. Now, usually the increases in the minimum wage were 80 cents an hour, $1 an hour, and Americans, because they're compassionate, tended to support that. This time, the House of Representatives wants to raise the minimum wage more than double it, from the current $7.25 an hour up to $15 an hour, and they're going to take 5 or 6 years to get there. Now, with that size of a increase in the minimum wage, it's going to cause far more harm than any benefit. So supporters, Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats in Congress, would say, well, look, if you raise the minimum wage, it will lift people out of poverty. People who are working hard 40 hours a week deserve what Bernie Sanders refers to as a living wage, and $15 an hour is a minimum. They deserve it. We should pay them. So that's their argument. Now, what you're referring to is some information that came out talking about what the longer-term effects of the minimum wage would be. The Congressional Budget Office estimated that 1.3 million people would be lifted out of poverty. The problem is, when you raise wages like that and the workers aren't really doing anything more for it, when wages end up going up that much, it ends up reducing the number of jobs available. Now, some economists will say that's not true, but if you look at reality, I think you'll agree it is true. $15 an hour turns out to be about $31,000 a year, plus with the Social Security that the company has to pay and some other costs, turns out to be about $35,000 a year to hire somebody who has absolutely no skills. A minimum wage worker is somebody who doesn't really know how to do anything. They don't have any skills. Yeah. So how many jobs will be available for people with no skills that the employer has to pay $35,000 a year to?
I think that's why, with the fast food situation, exactly. the skill there is to hand a bag of food out of a window. And that's not a specialized skill. That's something we can all do. And that's why these fast food restaurants are going to start putting automated. They already are. They're putting automation in their stores.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So the company, the fast food chain says, look, I've got 5 people in the front here. 3 of them take orders and 2 of them handle payment. Well, as long as I'm paying them $7, $8, $9 an hour, it makes sense for me to do that. There is an alternative. Economists would say you're going to replace labor with capital. So I could bring in some of those automated machines. So they're touch screens to take the order and a credit card as the touch screen to make a payment. Well, that's fairly expensive, and I haven't done it so far. However, if I have to pay these 5 people I have instead of the $15,000, $16,000, $18,000 a year I pay them, if I now have to pay them over $30,000 a year, and I've got 5 of them there, it simply isn't going to be profitable for me. And now it's cheaper to get the touch screens in there and take the place of labor. So automation is happening, artificial intelligence is happening, but the faster you push up the minimum wage, the more likely you are to get automation coming in, and you'll see a severe reduction in the number of jobs available. Yeah. Look, the unemployment rate is down under 4%, but if you look at the unemployment rate for teenagers, which has historically been in the 18, 20%, it still is at 13%. Part of the reason for that is you set a wage above what the market would pay somebody, and when that happens, you end up with unemployment.
Also, can you address the fact that some of these people on the left that want this higher minimum wage. Most of them, their philosophy is also just a bigger government in general, and they're going to get they're going to get more tax dollars when they artificially increase the minimum wage. Then they're going to get higher tax revenues to government, right?
Yeah, if you look at the big picture here, the U.S. went from being a new country to the number one economy in the world, the largest, most prosperous economy in the world in about 150 years. Other countries were hundreds, in some cases thousands of years older. Well, how did that happen? I believe the reason was four things. One, our system encouraged individual freedom. You were free to pursue what you wanted to do. Secondly, we encouraged individual responsibility. People took care of themselves. Thirdly, we had low rates of taxation. So when you earned income, you got to keep most of it. That was plenty of incentive. And fourthly, we had a limited role for government. The government provided the services that they do, defense of the country, a legal system, et cetera, and really didn't get involved much in business. So individual freedom, individual responsibility, low rates of taxation, and a limited role for government made our economy go from zero to the largest in a short period of time. All of these social programs that the Democrats are putting forth, free college tuition, pay off your student loans, free health care for everybody, we're going to raise the minimum wage, all of those programs, which they believe are geared to cure perceived social injustices, are all opposite to those four principles. The government takes over industries, you're going to lose individual freedom. The government provides services for you, you're going to lose individual responsibility. In order for the government to pay for this, they're going to have to raise taxes not just on the wealthy, but on everybody, so we'll have a higher rate of taxation. And now we have a large role for government. So it's exactly opposite to what made the country great.
I mean, I certainly agree with you. I also know that, this is, the minimum wage, now that you're paying people, mandated a higher wage, you now are getting more tax dollars from them. You now are, the amount of money going to the government is now increasing. And I think that's another reason why they love the minimum wage and increasing it to $15 an hour.
Right.
Here in Arkansas, we're on there was a ballot initiative that got put forward to the people, and lo and behold, they voted for an increase in the minimum wage, and we're going to be looking in a couple of years, it's a phase-in, but an $11 minimum wage in a state like Arkansas that's got a low cost of living. This is going to cripple small businesses in our state, not to mention what, may be considered nationally.
Yeah, I live in New Jersey, along the New Jersey shore. Here, they voted to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. It goes up about roughly $1 an hour over the next 5 or 6 years. It's 8-something now. I talk to small business people, especially in these resorts town. They don't know how they're going to stay in business. They can't possibly pay people $15 an hour. I mean, these are college kids that work in the summer. They're glad to have a job down at the shore. If they have to pay them $15 an hour, they can't possibly stay in business. Where do the Democrats think that money is coming from? So if the labor costs are going up, there's only two choices. Either business has got to cover it and reduce their profit, and of course if the profit gets reduced enough, there's no reason to be in business and people just go out of business. So business will try to absorb it, or you raise prices to consumers, and there's a limit to how much consumers, how much you can raise prices. So any way you look at it, it's either going to hurt business or it's going to hurt consumers. It's going to cause unemployment for a large number of workers. The CBO says you're likely to lose more jobs than the number of people that benefit. So where does it help somebody? There's only 1.3 million people, according to CBO, will be helped. But look at all the other people that you're harming as a result of this. My view is you're far better to let the market determine what a fair wage would be rather than have one artificially set by the government.
No, absolutely. I completely agree with you there. We're talking with Dr. Michael Busler, public policy analyst, professor of economics at Stockton University in the high-tax state of New Jersey. Dr. Busler, on the $15 minimum, on the $15 minimum wage, Did you see where the Bernie Sanders campaign was receiving criticism for not paying $15 because he was overworking his employees and they were really actually making more like 11 or 12? So now he is, in order to meet that threshold, in order to check that box, he's now limiting the number of hours that his campaign staffers can work so that he can say, I am paying them $15 an hour.
You know, and that's exactly how business people would react to this. They can their costs have to be held in line, or they won't have profitability, and if they don't have profitability, they're not going to be there anymore. So to hold the cost in line, if they have to increase wages up to $15 an hour, they're either going to reduce the number of people they have, or have the people that are there work fewer hours. And an employer would reason, look, I was paying you $10 an hour. Now I'm paying you $15 an hour. Shouldn't I expect you to produce a little bit more if I'm paying you that much more? So they reason the same thing as Bernie Sanders did, and the higher wage results in less hours for workers that are there or fewer jobs available.
Dr. Buster, I'd love to get your thoughts on the debt and this debt ceiling compromise that we're hearing about in the news this morning. No one really wants to talk about national debt anymore. Do you still think it's a serious problem?
It is a huge problem, and it's going to get even more serious. Here's the real problem why it's not being addressed. The public debt is up to $22 trillion. That's all the money, the deficits we've had over time that we had to finance by selling bonds. It adds to the public debt. The interest on the public debt alone is turning out to be about 13 or 14% of the government budget, so it's turning out to be a big number. We've got to get the budget as close to balanced as possible. Now, why can't we do that? The federal government will spend $4.4 trillion this year. Of that total, a little over 60%, $2.7 trillion, is for entitlement programs, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. You add in the interest on the debt, which also has to be paid, and now you're up over 70% of the budget. Government spending is very difficult to do anything about. If you say, any politician says, look, to get government spending down, we're going to have to reduce spending in Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, politically it's a disaster. Even if you even mention it, it has very negative political connotations. Eventually, somebody's going to have to take a look at this and say, look, these entitlement programs, we've got to get them under control. They're bankrupting the country. The last thing we need to do is to add more entitlement programs like free college and paying off college debt. We don't need any more, and indeed, we have to rein these in. I've looked at this. There's no good solution to this, which is why everybody's staying away from it. So if you can't find a good solution, the next best thing to do is to find a solution that's the least bad. Mm-hmm. And I think the only way out of this is we're going to have to significantly raise the retirement age. Social Security is already going up to 67. We're going to have to raise both Medicare and Social Security up to at least 70, and probably a little bit longer. Part of the reason, too, is that people are living a lot longer now. When Social Security was put in 1935, you retired at 65, the average life expectancy was 67. So you only lived and collected a couple of years. Well, that made sense. Now, people are living well into their 80s, into their 90s, and every day you see people that are living up over 100 now. Well, there's no way Social Security, you can start collecting Social Security and Medicare at 67 or 65 and expect that to cover you for the next 30, 35 years. It just isn't going to happen. There's not enough money to do that. When Social Security was started, there were 7 people, roughly, working for every one collecting. There are now 3 people working for every one collecting, and as the baby boomers would continue to retire, it'll get even worse, less than 3 people. It is not a sustainable system, at some point, somebody's going to have to face it.
So I'm 35, Dr. Busler, and I'm just wondering, do you think, I mean, I'm paying Social Security taxes.
Yeah.
Am I going to see any of that money?
You know, I tell my students, and I've been telling them for years, I said, if I was you, I wouldn't count on anything from Social Security. So plan your own retirement, set up your own retirement account. If I'm wrong, and I hope I am, and there is money for you from Social Security when you retire, then you'll just be in a better position because you'll put away money yourself plus Social Security. If it turns out I'm right and Social Security can't cover it, then you don't have anything to worry about because you plan for your own
There you go.
retirement.
There you go. Don't. It's, you know, the government dependency. When the government fails you, you know, there are consequences for it. Dr. Michael Busler, we always appreciate you coming on the program. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Paul. It was my pleasure.
All righty. Yes, sir. Mine too. Folks, we're going to take a break, going to reset here. Don't go anywhere. Back in just a moment.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms.
First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
And I had a lot of fun with that. That's something I've always wanted to do, be a computer scientist, work on computers. Kind of a techie kind of guy.
Yeah.
But it's been a great, it has been, and I continue to enjoy it because I'm still teaching classes. I'm going to teach a class in the fall on artificial intelligence here in Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah.
So it's kept me busy.
That's great. And where do you teach at?
Over the University of Arkansas.
U of A. Okay, that's great. Artificial intelligence. Okay. So then after education, I'm assuming, married. You got any kids?
One child. We have one daughter who's trying to follow Dad's footsteps, but she went into psychology and she's doing cancer research
Exposing the truth and everything the Marble Palace establishment keep trying to cover up. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Did you hear? And again, these two headlines. Welcome back. The Hispanic caucus, Trump's fear-mongering, are causing, according to this, illegal aliens to cancel their abortions. The Congressional Hispanic Caucus, Breitbart has this story, John Binder. They're now attacking the president, blaming him for fear-mongering that is causing illegal alien women to cancel their abortions. A BuzzFeed News report detailed how illegal alien women across the Southwest are canceling or skipping out on their abortion procedures for fear of being deported from the United States, as if like it's a rite of passage or something. BuzzFeed reporters spoke to executives at 4 abortion clinics, writing that obtaining an abortion for an illegal alien woman is even more frightening and challenging when you have to cross state lines knowing ICE officers are being stationed on streets and highways. Well, if that's true, and there's a fear of deportation when you show up to the abortion clinic, then I think we need some more ICE agents because this is about saving as many lives as we possibly can. On that, there's a famous YouTuber named Ninja. Do you know this YouTuber? Ninja. He's a gamer or something. Okay. So star gamer, his name is Richard Tyler Ninja Blevins. He's made headlines. Apparently, people just watch other people play video games, streaming live, whatever. And they also pay them to watch them, which is fascinating to me. I know my video games. I mean, at least I came up through. I played a lot of video games, but it's interesting to see. I mean, and I guess I enjoy watching other people play video games, I guess, like theoretically, like growing up, I guess that was fun. But to pay someone to watch them to play a game that I'm not, that's a whole nother phenomenon. That's crazy. Let me tell you why he's in the news real quick, and then you give me this little tidbit. He's in the news because for his birthday, he was talking about how thankful he was to be alive. Those of you guys who don't know, I was not supposed to be born, essentially. A lot of the doctors told my mom that I had spina bifida or Down syndrome or a number of diseases and that I should have been aborted. But anyway, she said no to all the doctors and found one that was like, we're going to have this baby. And fast forward 9 months after that, I was born perfect. Nothing was wrong with me. My mom is a saint and an angel, and I love her to death. And it's one of those things where had she listened to one of those doctors or even one of those people, you guys wouldn't be here. No one would be here in this room, meaning, I guess, the chat room or whatever. Big deal. Big deal. What does that say about sometimes the misguided, first of all, just the abortion industry, period, And we hear stories. We hear stories like this all the time, where doctors are telling women, they're telling them bad news. Yeah, and in a lot of cases, they're right in terms of if you carry the child to term, there's going to be this defect or this lack of quality of life. But folks, I mean, you decide: was it a misdiagnosis or was it a miracle? I mean, how in the world are we even supposed to know? Was it a misdiagnosis or a miracle? The fact is, we don't know. Anyway, 870-275-9799. We got one more hour coming your way next. You don't want to miss it. We're going to talk a little bit more. We're number one. Arkansas. Sales tax. We'll talk even more about this. It's a huge story. And it exposed, very rarely do you have this flashpoint where everything they just did in that 92nd General Assembly, a net tax increase on the people of Arkansas by $70 million for this fiscal year. And then we get the news, oh, by the way, we're the highest sales tax state in the country. It's pretty much an embarrassment and a disgrace, considering the Republican supermajorities that we have.
The news and talk of Northeast Arkansas. This is News Talk 101.3 FM and 12:30 AM KBTM, Jonesboro, an EAB radio station.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms.
First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
I'm working at Hopkins, then moved to got an offer at Nashville at Vanderbilt. She's over doing cancer research in Nashville.
So then you went to work where?
Well, I went to work. I retired from the Federal Reserve first time, and that was in 2005. And then I took a position at Computer Science Corporation in 6 months later, and stayed with them until 2012. And that's when we moved to Arkansas.
So tell me about the Federal Reserve. What was it like working there?
That was great. It was just absolutely great. You learned a lot about the central bank, the United States. I saw a lot of people in and out of. I was at the Board of Governors in Washington D.C. So I was there when Chairman Greenspan, Alan Greenspan, was the chairman. So a lot of the politicians would come in the mornings, and during the day you'd see it was like a revolving door. They always wanted to get information from him and what was happening. They got to see what's actually made D.C. beat back in the heartbeat of D.C. back in the day. But I don't know if it's that way any longer.
Wow, you mean like the Federal? So you think the Federal Reserve was driving the ship?
Well, just think about all the economic policies that came out of the Federal Reserve that were good for the country at the time. And the politicians wanted to be, I think they wanted to be right up there knowing what's happening. So
no question.
Follow the money.
Exactly.
Follow the money.
Exactly.
Follow the money.
Again, we're talking with Arkansan Bob Rodweller. And so you're retired now. You already mentioned that you're still teaching, though, keeping busy teaching some classes. What else do you do to stay busy in retirement?
Well, I was riding my bicycle, and I think we talked about that. In 2007, I rode my bicycle across the United States raising money for Fisher House and wounded veterans. And it was about 4,286 miles. I was going to do it again on the 10th year anniversary, 2017. So that kept me busy until I wound up in the hospital with ventricular tachycardia,
Wow.
or VTAC. But that's slowed me up a little bit. So what I've done is I've started to write.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
Yes. You know, I mean, I actually thought about making it a big deal, Joe. I really did. Welcome back to the program, hour number 2. The telephone number 870-275-9799 if you want to contribute to the program. Arkansas, number 1 in sales tax. This according to the Tax Foundation. You know, they reorganize their data every year, and Arkansas, you know, moving on up. And here we are. Now, technically, Tennessee's still ahead of us if you take it out to the correct decimal point. And that's what the Arkansas Democrat Gazette made clear in their coverage. They want... Well, it was actually the Tax Foundation. It was like, well, technically, it's... Man. I mean, what, we're 44th in per capita income? According to USA Today poll, we're the 17th worst place to live when it comes to tax environment. I mean, 44th in per capita income, and we're taxed too much. Does anyone think that maybe that has... Those two numbers are directly linked to one another? I do. Big government's on the move, you know? Listen, I know the Republican Party platform is lower tax, and that's why I vote for Republicans. But for Governor Asa Hutchinson at this point, now that we know, according to DFNA's own numbers, a $70 million net tax increase on the people of Arkansas, $70 million coming from the people to the government. Now that we know that, I mean, in hindsight, when the governor said that this last session was the greatest of all time, the greatest of all time, really? I just think that's a little bit inaccurate. I don't know about you. It's a little bit inaccurate. Number 1 in sales tax. Yes, Tennessee has no state income tax. So, yeah, I mean, you really can't even compare the two except for, you know, just on this specific metric. But, man, it's really frustrating when you look at it. And then, you know, you got local communities that are thinking about raising their sales taxes, you know, in addition to the state sales tax. I wonder how the citizens are, you know, there are community leaders in, for example, Jonesboro, which is where I live, and they are trying to, you know, raise the sales tax. There's a special election scheduled for sometime in September. And, I mean, I just think to myself, gosh, how much is enough, you know? 10%? 10%? Really? Are we not going to admit that there is, I mean, somebody somewhere's at least got to consider the possibility. I mean, even if you're for this tax, somebody somewhere's got to at least consider the possibility that there is a line, right, where you tax the people too much and you are killing our freedom, and you are killing our, you know, you're killing the economy. You're hindering the economy. All for what? So you can have bike trails and swimming pools? I mean, listen, I've grown up in Arkansas my whole life, and to listen to local communities that are continuing to try to raise taxes, and also, the state trying to raise taxes as well. I didn't know this, but apparently we live in a pretty terrible place that just needs this constant. See, that's the thing. Like, a sales tax is designed to increase your revenue if you just leave it alone. More people move to your community, more people do business there, your revenue goes up. So why do you have to constantly raise it? Why can't, if you want to do something, then do it. But don't spend the money on this stuff. Spend it on the stuff that you want. But they don't want to do that. Politicians push for tax increases when they don't want to govern, when they don't want to actually govern. Now, in some cases, politicians are dishonest. I'm going to give you an example of that. And it has to do with State Representative Jeff Wardlaw. So in this article, and you can see it, by the way, you can also check out the write-up over at conduitnews.com. But in the article, Michael Wickline, the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, Arkansas ties for number one in sales tax ranking. Rounding takes total levies to 9.47%. So you come down here, and State Representative Jeff Wardlaw, Michael Wickline writes, sponsored the 2020 amendment proposal. This, again, would permanently extend the sales tax for highways. The extension is a constitutional amendment. Wardlaw, who sponsored the 2020 proposal, said in an interview last week that he is concerned about the sales tax rankings' potential effect on the proposal, meaning like the people might be like, oh, really? Then we need to vote down this. We need to vote for a tax cut. If you vote against this 2020 proposal, the people of Arkansas will be voting for a tax cut on themselves. Quote, but I also think, though, that we are just continuing the half-point increase, and I think that is going to make it easier for the voters to approve it because it's not a new tax. It's a continuation of a tax they have been paying for the last 10 years that we voted on to expire. We voted for it to sunset. I think this is dishonesty to say that it's not a new tax when it required legislation to keep the money coming in. That's a new tax. I mean, if it passes, our rate may not go up, but if it doesn't pass, our rate will go down. So, yes, by law, by the letter of the law, it is in fact a new tax. You can tell yourself it's not a new tax because maybe that sounds better for campaign rhetoric and everything else, but the truth is that it is a new tax. If it's to say otherwise, then why did we need the law? Why did we need the legislation to send it back to the people? And oh, by the way, you should have just passed. If you really supported it, you should have went ahead and just voted on it and made it the law instead of doing this nonsense where we send it back to the people. And the reason they sent it back to the people is to avoid being called tax hikers. They say, well, I don't support the tax. But I am for letting the people decide. We're just going to let the people decide. Why would in the world I do that? I run on a low tax platform. I run on a no new tax platform. When I have the power as a state legislator, why wouldn't I use that power to guarantee no new taxes on the people of Arkansas? Well, you just must not be for democracy then. Well, not direct democracy, no. I mean, there are sometimes the people do need to vote. Well, like when they vote for representatives who then go down there and pass laws, debate ideas in their constituents' names. That's the whole name of the game, right? It's the whole reason why we do what we do. Why we do what we do. 870-275-9799. So that's Jeff Wardlaw. I just thought it was interesting. He said no new tax. Let's go to... Let's see, what did Jim Hendren say? Here we go. Senate President Pro Temp and the governor's nephew, Jim Hendren, who served as a co-chairman of the legislature's Tax Overhaul Task Force in 2017-2018. And by the way, the task force, that's exactly what it was. There's a $70 million tax increase now on the people of Arkansas in 2020. $50 million the next year. It shoots up to like, if this half-cent sales tax passes, you're looking at like a over $200 million tax increase on the people. So it was a task force. It was they didn't want to. There's a siren going on. You hear that, Joe? Emergency services. Anyway, it was a task farce. We now know that. You wasted all this money, you wasted all this time. You hired that liberal consultant, then you fired him. Also that you could get $70 million more in fiscal year 2020 from the people than before. It's really sad. Tax overhaul 2018. He said Arkansas has some of the highest sales tax rates and very low property taxes compared with other states, and both are difficult to fix. Property taxes are collected by counties. Overhauling the state's property taxes would require voter approval on a constitutional amendment, he said. Maybe some foreshadowing here. Much of the reason the sales tax rates are so high is because of the flexibility given to local governments to raise local sales taxes. And there was a tremendous pushback from local governments to draft legislation to cap their ability to increase sales taxes, said Hendren. The draft legislation wasn't politically viable in this year's session and could have jeopardized approval of other task force recommendations. According to the Tax Foundation, let's see here. Do we have another, one of five. Hendren said Arkansas's tax code puts a disproportionate share of taxes on low-income people, largely because of its sales taxes. Now, why is that? Well, hang on a second. That's a very Democrat statement to make. Quote, I think it's a discussion will continue to happen about how we bring about fairness to low and middle income taxpayers in Arkansas. It's a very Democrat thing, and that is why Republican Senator Jim Hendren tried to pass an earned income tax credit this last session, got it out of his chamber where it died in a House committee. Remember, he had a press conference with a bunch of Democrats behind him because the Democrats couldn't believe it. We're a Republican trying to pass an earned income tax credit? And then the Republicans took the Democrats took the photo and they put it on their website. They put this photo on their website, and then I did a segment on it, and then they took the photo down. As a matter of fact, in order to see the photo, I think the only way to see it is to go watch our broadcast where we put it up on the screen. Man, that's fascinating. Yeah, and you got these special elections where, and we've talked about this, but the special elections are deceptive. There's no reason to have a special election to raise taxes unless it's an emergency, unless a tornado comes through your community and, you now need more money ASAP to rebuild something. Then there's no reason to have special elections other than to put the people to sleep. Special elections are done so that you can, confuse the voter. Most voters know they vote 2 times a year. Or I'm sorry, 2 times, most voters know they vote once every 2 years. Most. Some more voters know that there's a primary, and but most voters, most people don't even pay attention to the news except like once every 4 years. Did you know that? Well, then that's their problem. That's their problem then. They should be more informed, but we're gonna have a special election, so we're gonna show up to vote to take more of their money. Yeah. Okay. It's just a little deceptive because, see, people, and actually I just think it's also, you're trying to legitimize theft. I mean, taxation is theft in a way. You're trying to kind of legitimize it because you have people out there who are truck drivers, who work at factories, who are trying to put their kids through school, who are trying to put food on the table, trying to make ends meet, and they don't have time to keep up with all of the attempts of other people trying to take more money from them when they go buy things. They simply don't. There's people who are in different stages, different conditions of life than some of these people, I think, for example, in Northeast Arkansas, who are trying to pass taxes on everybody else. Same goes for the people over in Fort Smith. I mean, when Fort Smith tried to pass their sales tax to fund a U.S. Marshals Museum, you had all of the bigwigs who owned property around it that were wanting the tax to happen because they wanted the museum to be taxpayer funded, so their property values that border where the museum would be would go up. And we exposed that here on Conduit News. So, you know, I just got to say, the special election should stop. And we all, in 2017, we almost stopped those special elections. Remember this. We almost stopped it. We had it passed out of we had the final step. It was on its way to the governor's desk, and then someone sounded the ballot, and State Representative, now Senator, James Sturge, got a text message on his phone, as you can see in the video, and got up and walked out, and it went from 51 votes to 50, and it failed. So, we almost had it. We almost ended special elections in Arkansas. For this very reason. For this very reason. Tell us what you think. 870-275-9799. If you are an elected official, whether you like big government, whether you don't, whether you want higher taxes, whether you don't, I think we should all be able to agree that when we ask the people whether or not they want to pay more money in the form of a tax increase, that we want the largest voter turnout, therefore we have the largest sample of the people, meaning we have the most accurate definition on that specific issue when it comes to the consent of the governed. I think that should be something, you know, if the ends justify the means, okay, well then you can justify anything. But if we can just agree on the principle, but see, for example, in Jonesboro, that's already been thrown out. That's gone. That's been thrown out because they scheduled a special election. And so I don't, and what really bugs me about that is it makes me not even want to debate the issue of what you want to use the money for, whether it's for bikes, a pool. To me, that doesn't even really matter. I mean, I guess we could debate that. I mean, and we've had people on to talk about it, but the fact that you do it in a special election, just, I'm sorry, like it just makes me, you're basically condemning the effort before it even gets out of the gate, because you're doing the special election because you know the statistics. You have a 70% chance of passing your tax in a special election. If you do it in a general, you have a 46% chance, according to the Arkansas Center for Research and Economics, from 1980 to 2017. That was the study done. We got to take a break. Back in a moment.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms.
First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
And just reflect on life. And I'm just watching politics a little bit more than I would care to these days. But
so, are you're involved with our political organizations? I mean, you live in Washington County, so I mean, the Washington County Republican Committee. Do you go to those meetings?
Well, I was going to those meetings up until, I guess, right after I got out of the hospital. And at that point in time, it wasn't going anywhere. To me, we're not doing. They were just talking business as usual, and that was the thing that I didn't want to see, because I thought there's a lot of things that need to be done, and they talked about things that making things different, but I never saw anything happening. For example,
Determined to drain the swamp in Little Rock, it's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
I'm just going to go over these one more time. Low voter turnout and high pass rates. That's the story of special elections from 81 to 2018. If you hold your tax increase vote in a general election, you have a 44% voter turnout and a 46% pass rate. So the people don't like to be taxed. If you hold your special election in a primary, you have a 24% voter turnout on average and a 61% pass rate. But if you hold it in a special election, you have a 19% voter turnout on average from 1981 in Arkansas to 2018 and a 76% pass rate. That is just I just think it's wrong. So 870-275-9799. And I think if you're honest with yourself, I think most people would disagree with stacking the deck just to get what you want. We have too much of that in politics anyway. We have too many predetermined outcomes where where you really just have theater. You really just have a process play out and I've seen it so many times at the Capitol, at the Marble Palace in Little Rock. We have that all the time. I mean, can you not just have a regular election? Come on, people. What is up? Telephone number 870-275-9799. Okay, let's go here. So we told you about. Do we have time for this? We're going to have to. Okay, we don't have time for this. We're going to run out of time. The Daily Wire headline: Ocasio-Cortez promotes unsubstantiated conspiracy theory about Trump. I do like this. Ryan Saavedra, Socialist Representative Ocasio-Cortez, promoted a new substantiated conspiracy theory on Monday, suggesting without evidence that Donald Trump was intentionally trying to get her assassinated. Ocasio-Cortez made her wild claim on Twitter in response to the police officer who reportedly said on Facebook that Ocasio-Cortez, quote, needs a round, and I don't mean the kind she used to serve, because she's a bartender. Quote, this is Trump's goal when he uses targeted language and threatens elected officials who don't agree with his political agenda. It's authoritarian behavior. The president is sowing violence. He's creating an environment where people can get hurt, and he claims plausible deniability. Ryan Saavedra does point out that it's worth noting, quote, a far-left domestic terrorist recently attacked an ICE facility in Tacoma, Washington, and used Ocasio-Cortez's, quote, concentration camp rhetoric in his manifesto. Ocasio-Cortez has repeatedly refused to denounce that terrorist attack. Okay, so actual violence, not some person sounding off on Facebook. Actual violence. But no, she has no responsibility for comparing, or really calling ICE agents Nazis, and that we are running American concentration camps at the border. Anyway, we got half an hour of the show left, and I'm excited about it. We got more stories. Don't go anywhere.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms.
First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab. Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
The Electoral College. There's a big push across the United States to change the Electoral College or have what is it, the
Popular
states
vote,
yeah. Convention of States. And I'm thinking that's the wrong push. There's other things to go about this. You bring up some suggestions about how to do that. And basically, okay, thanks. On to the next topic. So I thought.
Bringing you your daily dose of truth. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right. So we got this Miss World America stripped of her title. We brought you this story yesterday. It's been everywhere. And then Kathy, I've been pronouncing it Zoo. I don't know if some people, I think I heard her say her name is pronounced Chu, but Kathy Chu, I'm just going to go ahead and go with that. So she went on CNN's New Day with Allison Camerata. Do we have that audio? Can we talk a little bit? This is unbelievable how the media. This is just another example of why you don't need to watch CNN. You just don't. I mean, they are. Well, I think this former Miss former Miss Michigan. I think she did a great job actually standing up to CNN's liberalism. Listen to this.
Honestly, you shouldn't just take tweets out of context. I think it's super important to the full context of the tweet and the full conversation. Everything I've posted was my statistics and opinions, and I think that we should be empowering women's voices and not just stripping them of their title only because of their opinions.
Ooh.
So let's look at some of your posts that I think
voices.
that they had objections to. So here was one. This was from October 2017. I think it was in reference to some conversation about Black Lives Matter. You wrote, "Did you know the majority of black deaths are caused by other blacks? Fix problems within your own community first before blaming others." So do you see how that could be seen as offensive?
You know, this tweet was actually in response to another person talking about how all blacks or all cops are bad people, that they kill innocent black people. And I think that you shouldn't just put a blanket statement over all cops. You know, again, read full tweets and context to make sure to see the full story.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess your point of, did you know the majority of black deaths are caused by other blacks? What's your point?
That's statistics. You can find that on FBI's website. This is all backed up by statistics and facts. I think it's really, really awful how the left thinks that statistics and facts are racist. So I don't think anything I said was remotely wrong. I stand by every tweet that I post.
And do you know who causes the majority of white deaths?
Yeah, this is, you know, apparently this is white people cause white deaths. It's not even that's the issue. The issue is that people didn't know that I was responding to another person calling cops bad people.
Right. I guess my point is, why would you focus on blacks causing black deaths when the majority of white deaths are caused by white people? Why, you know, this is why people think that that has a ring of racism to it. You didn't mention the white statistic.
Again, this is in response to another person's tweet talking about how cops kill black people. And this is, you know, I can't just take a tweet and just, you know, turn it around saying, oh, white and white violence too. Of course, everyone has problems with their own communities, and I completely understand that. But, you know, we have to empower women's voices, honestly, to show that, you know, we could have different political opinions and that not just statistics and facts are racist.
Well, first of all, the pageant wasn't calling you racist. They were saying insensitive and offensive content. And again, you're the person who focused in on that statistic. That's the statistic that you decided to highlight instead of police excessive force, showing those statistics.
And
so,
again, in response, this is what I mean, she's saying. Again, it was in response to somebody saying that cops are bad, all bad, and they're targeting and killing black people. It is a relevant retort to then cite the FBI statistic that most African Americans are killed by other African Americans. It's Twitter. This is what people do. They go back and forth just like this. But Kathy Chu is right. CNN, Allison Camerata, and the left think that statistics are racist. And I think she says, well, they're not calling you racist, because I think she realizes that there might be some people in CNN that might be waking up for this because Kathy Chu is Asian. It's like, whoa, wait a second. Wait a second. She looks different than a white person, and yet we're calling her racist? Again, diversity on the left means looking different, but thinking the same. And this is a conundrum for those. I mean, CNN and the media, the mainstream media, is a blockade of truth, man. They are keeping people blind by lying to them. And slowly but surely, more people are waking up to this fact. You know, in conservative talk radio, I grew up listening to conservative talk radio, even though I was more liberal in college. But you always heard conservatives talk about how the media had a bias. The media had a bias. It has, and they've preached it, host after host, and they are right. I mean, they are more right now. I mean, they're just getting more and more correct the more bias there is. Let's keep going with this clip, though. I'd like to get to the end of it.
This is what got the attention of pageant officials.
You know, that's actually false, because if you read the text through the state director, she actually quoted the tweet that I said and said, is this racist? This is racist, right? I mean, you know, again, this is taken fully out of context. And I think that, you know, if you actually think that statistics and facts are racist, I don't know what to tell you. I think, again,
we should... which ones you highlight. I mean, it's just which ones you highlight. Since, you know, you could have said the thing about white people, but let's move on to your next tweet.
No, it's just...
And that was about...
No, it's just the ones you highlight. You're Camerata here is actually agreeing with this woman.
She's not listening.
She says, well, I don't think statistics are racist. And she says, no, they're not racist. It's just about the ones you highlight. So the statistic is racist then. You are saying I think statistics are racist.
She's intentionally ignoring what she's being told.
Oh, I know. She's
It's
clear
clearly
agenda.
infuriating.
She's clear agenda. Clear agenda.
Because it's clear that they've referenced the tweet, they've referenced the statistics that she used in her tweet, and the fact that her tweet was in response to someone talking about cops taking the lives of black citizens.
Matter of fact, it wasn't lost on Kathy Chu either. Scroll up from this video and get her tweet after this appearance. She said she kind of captioned or summarized the interview. Yeah. CNN, why didn't you talk about white-on-white crime? Me. Because it was in response to a person calling all cops horrible people. CNN, okay, but why didn't you talk about white-on-white crime? Me. As I said, it was in response to another tweet. CNN, okay, but you didn't talk about white crime, though. So she's trolling Camerata after her interview.
Because contextually it doesn't make sense to...
Man, I'm telling you. It's crazy. I mean, I would like to think that a rational person who is blind by CNN watched that interview and realized the truth. You know, I mean, no, I'd like to think that some, you know what I mean, like that there was somebody whose programming was kind of there was a glitch in the matrix when they watched that interview because that was bad. I mean, Camerata is certainly doing what she's paid to do and having this agenda, but she did a bad job in that interview, for the liberal side for sure. But it's they don't really have an argument to stand on. Okay, we got your meme of the day coming up in about 15 minutes. So you're going to want to stick around for that. Now we haven't talked about this yet. Headlines went across. I mean, they were everywhere last week talking about the first black 007. First black Bond girl criticizes the casting of Lashana Lynch as the new 007. Miss Bond doesn't have the same ring to it. I don't really agree with her becoming 007. Now, so here's it. You've got Daniel Craig, who's James Bond. He's playing James Bond in the his fifth installment of the movie. This will be his number 5, which is a record. And the headlines are a little misleading. I will say I thought they were recasting James Bond as a woman. And when I originally read the headlines that came out about this last week, but the reality is in the new movie, James Bond is in retirement. They have to call him out of retirement. And Ralph Fiennes, who plays M, is in the office and he says, 007, get in here. And 007 walks in and it's a woman. She's a woman, meaning James Bond's in retirement, so they've given the 007, it's supposed to be like a shocking, funny moment, I'm sure. They've given the number to a woman. Now, do I think there's an agenda behind that? Absolutely there is. Does it mean that James Bond is becoming a woman? No, it doesn't, at least not yet. But we know that's probably coming down the pike at some point. But you have the first Bond girl. The first. Let's see. Was she the first? Was Trina Parks the first black Bond girl? Miss Bond doesn't have the same ring to it, says actress Trina Parks in reference to black British actress Lashana Lynch being cast as the new 007. Parks made history in 1971 by becoming the first black Bond girl, starring alongside Sean Connery in Diamonds Are Forever. Speaking to the Mirror, Parks said that while she agrees James Bond could indeed be a black man, she could not see 007 character being a woman. Yeah. I mean, can we go over the reason why 007 just can't be a woman? I mean, it's not politically correct, but, When have we ever worried about that? I mean, but you know what I mean. But you know what the left's going to say, right? The left's going to say, well, you don't think a woman can pursue a man? Well, what does that even have to do with it? Because, I mean, at this point, they're making the new, they're making that Marvel character gay. Did you hear about that? They are. I mean, sorry, like the Marvel, the Marvel Comic-Con happened, and Marvel's coming out with their Phase 4. Marvel's coming out with their new movies, and they're making a character that we've already known, that we were introduced to in Thor 2 or Thor 3, a character named Valkyrie. They're now saying that she will be gay in the upcoming films. And there's a lot there. Some of this stuff's kind of getting lost in translation because they are also making a Thor 4 where Thor doesn't become a woman, but a woman becomes Thor. But that's actually from the comics. So there's some faux outrage here because Jane Foster in the comics does eventually get the powers of Thor. I know I'm geeking out here, but there's a lot of sensitivity around because you cannot deny that there isn't an agenda. There is a political agenda in everything now. I mean, why did we have so many people on Twitter saying "take that, white people" when it was announced that Little Mermaid was going to be black, right? Now, there were plenty of people that were, like, upset about that, and I was one of them just because I'm like, they didn't do this with any of the other live-action princesses. Why now? And the only reason is because somebody somewhere is like, I feel bad about remaking all these Disney movies that are featuring white princesses. And it's like, well, we got to do something. But that somebody somewhere had the agenda to do it. And so there is agenda everywhere in everything trying to, well, we need to check this box. Well, we need to check this box. And in the context of that last interview you just heard, they're the ones that are constantly saying, well, this is racist, this is racist, this is racist, this is racist. But I actually think their efforts to try to check all these boxes is in an essence just a psychosis, an obsession with race.
So look at all the live-action Disney movies that are on the list, though. First, you had Beauty and the Beast. Then you have Mulan, The Little Mermaid, and Aladdin. I'm not going to include Lion King in this because it's more CGI than real life. Out of the four of those, you have someone who's going to be cast as someone who's going to be an Asian cast as Mulan. Someone who's going to be more of an Arabic descent cast as Jasmine for Aladdin. Now the question is, who are you going to cast as Belle and or Ariel? Well, Ariel just seemed like the more it's like, oh, we've got these two races over here. We also have a white girl playing Belle. Well, we'll make a fourth race over here.
It's exhausting.
We'll pick a fourth race. Black people. That makes sense because it makes sense for them.
This obsession with race at this point, it's almost, to me,
to be honest, it's kind of archaic.
I was about to say, it's kind of anti-human race. If you really think about the obsession that we have with it, it's like it's almost dehumanizing us in a way. That's at least the way I feel about it. But anyway, in other news, I'm going to, hey, Joe, listen to this punt. I'm going to try to make this a smooth transition. You'll get it here in a minute. I'm going to try to make this a smooth transition. Matt Walsh has an update when it comes to people who want to define their own reality. A biological man in Canada who now identifies as a woman and goes by the name Jessica Yaniv, is attempting to legally compel women to touch his genitals. He has filed a human rights complaint against 15 estheticians, claiming that their refusal to wax his testicles is a violation of his inherent human rights. Matt Walsh writing, the women, some of whom have been driven out of business by the financial strain of having to defend themselves, denied the request for the rather logical reason that they do not provide that service. Yaniv was seeking male genitalia waxing from establishments that normally only do bikini waxes for women. One can imagine that waxing a man's private parts is quite a different sort of process, replete with unique complications and dangers. As it happens, there is a place in Yaniv's vicinity that specializes in male waxing for any males masochistic enough to request it, but Yaniv didn't want to go to that place. He wanted to go to the place for women, which raises the technical problem that He isn't one, Matt Walsh writes. So you got this guy. I'm sorry, this is great. You got this guy who is identifying as a woman, but he's really a man. He's got the man parts, and I guess he just doesn't feel comfortable because he believes to be a woman. He wants a woman to do this procedure. Oh, man, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. Matt Walsh goes on, this is all self-evidently ridiculous, of course. Yanov is a man with man parts, no matter what he claims to believe about himself. And I will say this. So this is what we have to look forward to, by the way. This is in Canada, all right? And Robin Williams, in one of his stand-up, what he once called Canada was like the loft apartment above a really great party. But at this point, we can look to Europe and Canada, and for like cultural, our cultural futures. So this is going to continue to happen. I mean, first it was, hey, you must be forced to bake a cake. You're forced to bake my cake for my wedding. That is a religious ceremony that you disagree with. Okay. You want to conscript my services. That's your argument. Conscript my services to bake a cake for a gay wedding that I disagree with. Okay. And apparently it doesn't stop there. We now, I know, but we now have people in this world that want to force you they want to force women to wax your genitals. I mean, it's incredible if you think about it.
It's also Canada. Canada's really dumb with their laws right now when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah, compelling speech, and making sure you use the right pronouns, that sort of thing. Yeah.
So my question is, real quick, in the United States, flipping the bakery situation that happened a few years ago. What if I, a straight white male who also happens to be a Christian,
the answer is no.
Walks into a bakery owned by someone who is of the homosexual orientation.
Yeah.
And I say, I would like a cake that is in the form of a cross. What would happen if they denied me? Can I take them to court for the same reason?
You would lose because you're a white male who's straight.
But it's persecution of my religion.
Yeah, well,
I can make that claim.
You demand that that they're conscripted. You could try to conscript their services. I don't know. It's a great question though. And the bottom line is people should just let other people live, and if it neither picks your pocket nor breaks your leg, then leave people alone. Leave people alone. So I think we could just conclude that this story is nuts. We'll be back in a moment.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hi, folks. Paul Harrell here. For those that can't catch Conduit News Radio with me on the radio every morning from 6 a.m. to 8, don't panic. You can always listen anytime on our digital platforms using your smartphone or computer. In this video, I'm here to help you navigate to the many options you have to watch or listen to the show across our digital platforms.
First, you can catch the show on Facebook. Just use your internet browser and type in facebook.com/Conduit News. From there, select Videos on the left side of your screen. From there, you can watch the full 2-hour show each day or select specific interviews you want to watch. Another place you can watch the show is on YouTube. Just use your internet browser and type in youtube.com. Then, in the search bar, search for Conduit News. Select the Conduit News page as it appears. While here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell to receive notifications when new videos are ready. From YouTube, you can also watch every live show daily and all the interviews I have with guests. More options are available at our website, conduitnews.com. Select the Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell tab, Here, you can watch each day's show live or watch old episodes and interviews. You can also catch audio-only versions of the show right here on this page of the website. For audio-only versions of the show, you have some options. For Apple iPhone users, simply use the podcast app and search Conduit News. Subscribe to the podcast and get each hour of the show automatically in your app daily. You can also download the SoundCloud app from your app store and search Conduit News to find your station. And that goes for Android users as well.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We want to make sure you get the latest on Arkansas news and politics. You have many options to know what government is doing in your name and with your tax dollars. Learn more at conduitnews.com.
I almost lost my life. I'm not going to sit here and waste my time doing that. But I'm still friends with some from my combat buddies, and we share back and forth information from time to time, and we write to each other. And, so it's also teaching some of the classes, and I've also taught a class on Electoral College, and it's allowed me to go back and reread the Federalist Papers a couple times. So if people really want to learn about what's happening in today versus what happened, how our country was founded, they should start reading some of the founding documents.
Yes.
And I think it's just my opinion. It's just my opinion. I don't mean to go off on a tangent, but Arkansas is a great, great state. And I'll give you some reasons why. We've got 52 state parks, which is just absolutely gorgeous. They're beautiful state parks.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is building a liberty machine. Find out more at conduitnews.com.
Al Franken absolutely regrets resigning over the Me Too allegations. It was made in the heat of the moment. No, it was made because Democrats wanted to win a Senate seat in Alabama. Al Franken was forced to resign by his party so they wouldn't look like giant hypocrites with the Roy Moore scandal and all those allegations about him dating younger women. That's what it was. You got to remember the context. Al Franken's mad that he was made the sacrificial lamb because they had those photos of him treating women badly, mocking them, and allegations of him forcing himself on them. He's upset that he resigned and he gave up his power as a senator from Minnesota. Also, the Democrats could temporarily pick up a Senate seat in the state of Alabama to try to look like it was a rebuke against Trump and his misogyny. That's all it was, and I think Franken now knows, well, Trump's still doing fine. This was pointless for me to sacrifice myself. Here's your meme of the day, by the way. In light of Bernie Sanders and the minimum wage, courtesy of media _poke. This is on Instagram, media _poke. That look, when your own campaign workers prove your ideas will never work. When you have the $15 minimum wage ideal and you don't pay your workers $15, your own campaign starts to criticize you because you're overworking. When you make a decision that the business owner would make if they were ever subjected to your oppressive policies. Your meme of the day will be posted at Conduit News' Twitter page, at Conduit News, as well as Facebook at facebook.com/Conduit News Arkansas. Thanks so much for being with us. We always appreciate you listening. Have a great day and be safe.